Hey, what's up, treasure hunters? So today I'm going to run through some sales that I've recently had, some more notable sales, because I haven't done a sales video in a while, and I think it can be helpful for all of you to see some of the different types of items that I look for at thrift stores and some of the potential profit you can get from these types of items. So when you're out there treasure hunting yourselves, you can, relate what I've sold and, what they look like or different traits from those items and kind of put that into what you're looking for. And that way, hopefully you can find some similar things out there. So let's get into some of these notable sales. Okay, so the sales that I'm going to run through are going to be sales that I made in my Etsy store. I'll do a separate video for the sales that I made on eBay. Here is the first item that I'm going to show you today, and this I actually picked up on Buy Sell Trade on Facebook. So it was a local sale. The person had it listed. I ended up paying $40 for it. And this is an antique carved elephant table here. It wasn't entirely big or anything. The only issue with it was that it was missing a couple, one or two, I think maybe just one, I don't remember exactly, but of these little tusks here. But it does have this inlaid wood top, and then the outside is carved. And you can see that all four legs are these elephant figures. And here there's a little, I don't really know exactly what this is used for in the middle here, but it was a really beautiful table. When I picked it up, it was very, very dirty and, just didn't look like it does in these pictures. So I had to clean the entire thing and use some nice polish and restore kind of the original look to the wood. Pretty sure that this is a teak, either teak or rosewood. Doing some research though, I'm pretty sure it's teak because I did find some similar tables, not exactly the same, but these hand carved wooden tables. So again, I did pick this up for $40 on Buy Sell Trade. It was kind of random. I was just scrolling through some listings. The buyer only wanted $40 for it, so I paid $40 cash. I had it listed on my Etsy store for $850. I was running a Father's Day 20% off coupon, so it ended up being a revenue of $680. It did cost me though, just because of the size. I had to put it in a box. This thing didn't come apart, so it cost me almost $100 to ship because I had to ship it all the way out to California. But still, with the $40 investment and the shipping, ended up being under $150 total, and I generated $680, minus Etsy's fees. My next sale here, this is an antique. It was a brass frame here. It's not entirely big. I think it held a 4x6 picture, but it was very ornate, really detailed, and did have this easel type stand in the back. And I picked this up at a Goodwill, and it was on, like I've said many times before in previous videos, it was on one of those carts that they rolled out, and it was just kind of tossed in the bottom. I came across it when I was about to get in line, and the price was only like $2 or $3. And here you can see it just had this little stand here that would fold in. After doing some research around this, this is a Victorian French Revival styled picture frame here. Here's a better look at the bottom. You can definitely tell it's definitely older, antique, and it has this little cherub at the top. So when I first picked this up, I wasn't exactly sure, what I could resell this for, but I knew it was worth a lot more than $2 or $3 that they had a price for, and there's nothing that can really be damaged in shipping as long as you're not throwing in like a padded envelope or something. There's no glass on this. I don't know if there once was glass or not, but there wasn't glass in this piece. So it was definitely a good find right when I was checking out. So again, picked this up at Goodwill for $2 or $3, and I had it listed and sold it for $145. Here's my next sale that I wanted to show you, and this is an abstract art glass sculpture here, and it was done by Terry Frosch, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was an artist local to the area that I live in. Didn't have a ton of auction results or, even sales, but he did do quite a bit of art glass just locally. And this is just a nice sculpture here. It has a lot of color to it. Kind of just abstract, free form in nature. And then on the bottom here, you can see it was done in '99 and it is signed. There was a chip here on the bottom, but I mean, you can't notice it when it's standing up. So that was really not relevant too much at all. Whenever I see art glass like this, or any kind of sculptures, this definitely caught my eye just given the overall shape. You're not going to find Chinese or, just kind of production art glass in this kind of shape just because it is free form. And it is done really well. You don't see any bubbles or ripples or anything in the actual sculpture itself. And then I always obviously check for the signature at the bottom. And anytime something's signed, I picked this up at a Savers. It was only like $3. So anytime I find like art glass that's actually signed and pretty well made for that cheap, I'll just pick it up, because even if this artist isn't well known, it can still generate a pretty nice profit. And this wasn't entirely big. It was actually wider than it was tall, so it was only 6.5 inches tall, so it was real easy to ship to. So I knew that wouldn't cost me that much. So again, this was a $3 Savers thrift store pickup, and I ended up selling it through Etsy for $80. Here's the next sale that I'm going to review with you, and this was a really cool lamp that I found at a Goodwill. It was only like $5, and you could tell it's old for a couple different reasons. One, the way the shade is. It actually had the original shade, which a lot of times with antique lamps, the shade's gone, whether it was damaged or changed out or whatever. It's not often that you find the original shade. Two, if you look at, I've said this in videos before, the way the bulbs are set up here, you could just tell that this is older, and also given just the overall style of this piece and the cord and everything else, it's definitely an older lamp. Surprisingly enough, the lion part of this was in perfect condition. There weren't any even scratches on it. So it was kind of dirty and dusty and stuff, but that's never a deterrent to actually make the purchase. There was a little bit of damage on the shade, but that's not really a huge deal given the age of this piece, and it's not like there's a hole in it or whatever. It's just there was just a small little tear in the shade. One other thing too is these pull chains were they were really heavy. They were, these balls on the bottom were like solid bronze or brass, whatever they used to make, the post here to hold up the shade. So it was on a solid wood base also. So for $5, this was definitely an awesome find and a pretty rare find. I wasn't able to identify exactly where this came from. I posted it to a couple different groups on Facebook. Most people said it was most likely European and maybe Italian, so that's what I went with. But I didn't say it was definitely Italian, just possibly Italian. So that's always important when you're listing things. If you think it's something, you can say, possibly or most likely or whatever you want, but you don't want to list something with the wrong information because that can potentially cause some issues. So again, I found this piece at a Goodwill for $5 and I sold it through Etsy for $400. Got a 5-star review. One thing though with this, since it did come with the original lampshade, I had to ship the piece in 2 separate boxes. So it ended up costing me about $75 to ship the entire thing. And the reason why I did that is the lampshade itself with the piece, keeping it all together would have made the box, pretty big and could potentially damage the shade itself. So I thought it was just easier to ship this in 2 separate boxes. It wasn't going too far. It only went to, I think, Brooklyn, New York. I knew anytime you get lamps and stuff, especially when you do have the original shade, you have to expect that if you're offering free shipping, you're going to end up spending a little bit on shipping. Given the $5 investment price and then what you could actually make from it, that wasn't a big deal. And this is an abstract, kind of geometric in nature painting, or I guess you could even qualify this as mixed media. Just a cool mid-century style. I really liked how they had this, this little geometric graph thing. It even had like little symbols and, figures and whatever else. Thought that was kind of different. Here you can see it was signed Miko. I did do some research and I think that I don't have the artist's first name, but I did find some similar style pieces of art done by a professor. Obviously, I didn't have his first name or whatever, but wasn't a big deal for the buyer. It was just too cool of a unique piece of art, and sometimes you don't need to find everything out about an artist, or if it's just a well done piece of art, sometimes that doesn't matter and you can still make a nice profit. This is a piece I found at Goodwill for $5. So for $5 that I paid, I didn't know what to price this for because again, there weren't really any, I think I did find out who the artist was somewhat. There weren't many auction results or any kind of pricing to go off of. So I just put this up for $200 and it ended up selling and also got me a 5-star review. So the buyer was obviously happy with the item that they received and only cost me $20 to ship. So here's the next piece I'm going to show you. This is a piece of art. Obviously, first I actually thought this was done because it's done in the style of Louis Eichhardt, and I actually had this listed as an Eichhardt drawing, and I thought it was titled De Harcourt. Somebody reached out to me on, I think it was eBay. They messaged me and said this is not an Eichhardt, and they were all freaking out that it's not like I was trying to deceive anyone. It was just the fact that this looks very much like an Eichhardt and it's just not signed. And I didn't take this out of the frame or anything and look on the back. After doing a little bit more research, I did find that Eichhardt signed most of his work, so this most likely wasn't an Eichhardt, but this is an Etching. It was signed and numbered here, but it's really well done either way, and it even matches like Eichhardt's overall style really well, especially, with the woman here in some fashionable type attire with an animal and stuff. Just very similar to what iCard did. I looked further into it and found that it was the Harcourt. You can see it's professionally framed and everything. But I picked this up at a Goodwill, and it was only, I don't know, $6 or $7. So when I originally thought it was an actual iCart, I had it listed more towards $1,200 or $1,000 because his work, his etchings, that's kind of like, what they sell for. Afterwards, I did drop the price pretty considerably, given that it was after iCart's work, but I still had it listed for $450, and that's what I ended up selling it for. So here's another etching that I sold, and this is an antique etching of a lion. There's no signature or anything with this piece besides just what it says, lion, and then I think those are numbers. But this was professionally framed, and here's the sticker on the back, and this has that ultraviolet filter, so it's an expensive frame. And this was actually, and here's the number of the etching. So I don't know if this was an etching from plates for some sort of, who knows, book or whatever. It definitely matches the style of an antique etching, especially of the lion. It's hand colored, really good condition, and I found 2 of these that were in very similar frames, done by the same company, so they had to have been donated, because I found this at Goodwill. It had to have been donated by the same person. The other one I still have listed, but this one sold first. The frame was in great condition. There was a small scratch. I'll get into that in a minute. I didn't notice until after I sold it, because it was very small, but I mention that now because it's something that, if you're selling art or selling any kind of antiques or vintage stuff, that you might come across. So it's how you handle it can be very important. But I picked both lion pieces up for $5 at a Goodwill. So here's why I mentioned that before. As I was packing this piece up, I did notice some tiny spots to the glass on the bottom, and I wanted to let the buyer know before I shipped it out. I messaged them, and I waited a day or two to actually ship the piece, and gave them 2 offers, whether they wanted a full refund and just wanted me to, keep the piece and take their money back, or if they wanted, a smaller refund after I shipped it. If I didn't hear back from them, that was also an option. I did never hear back from them, so they must have not really cared too much, or when they received the piece, it was not a big deal at all. I tried to send a picture. You can see, the tiny spots at the bottom, but some buyers are very particular with stuff like that. So it's always good to mention things like this in your listing if you see it prior, or in my case, when I was wrapping it in bubble wrap, the way the light hit it, I saw that there were these tiny little specks on the glass that caused a shadow. But anyway, this piece was picked up at Goodwill for $5, and I sold it for $225. So minus the shipping, it was a $200 revenue item. So here's my last piece I'm going to show you in this video that I sold through Etsy. And this I actually found at the Salvation Army. And I got this piece for, I think it was only like $4.99. What caught my eye immediately about this was actually the frame. This is an old frame, really nicely hand-carved wood frame. And this was originally done by F. Lieber. I can't remember his first name, but definitely an antique and a chromolithograph. I actually took this out of the frame because I wasn't sure when you look really close at this. I don't know if the pictures will even show you, but it just, I mean, it was very vibrant in color, but you could tell it wasn't just like a regular print. And when I took this out, the piece is actually done. It almost looked like like the back of it was a very thin piece of wood. It had like grain to it, which was really different. I hadn't seen anything like that before. But if you do an image search of this, this is called the Holy Family, and you'll find a bunch of different prints and stuff of this actual piece of art. So I did ended up selling this for $125. And with these kind of works, religious stuff can actually sell pretty well. At first, I was kind of turned off by religious works like this, but given if it's an antique and it's really well done in good condition, especially in a really nice frame, it's always worthwhile picking those up or doing a little more research on. So that's all I got for you guys today. Just wanted to run through some sales. I got a whole bunch more sales that I have to go through, so I'm going to make numerous videos just showcasing some different types of items that hopefully you can learn from and recognize the different items and kind of traits of those different items when you're out looking yourselves. That really helps me a ton, and it has helped me in the past, like looking at previous auction sales and previous things that have sold and just recognizing similar traits and stuff that I'm seeing out at thrift stores or estate sales or whatever it might be. So that could lead you to find some great things to sell in your own stores. As always, I really appreciate you tuning in and watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, click that bell, and like the video. That all helps me a lot with YouTube's whole algorithm thing. I'm about to make another thrift store finds video. I have a ton of large art pieces that I found. I don't know what it is recently, but I found a ton of like larger art pieces in the last couple weeks. And in that video, I'm going to be announcing the winner, do the randomization for the giveaway that I stated in my last video. So stay tuned for that. What I have to do to enter is, watch the video and comment on what item you like the most that I showcased that I found at the thrift stores. So it's real easy. I appreciate all you guys, and be sure, if you haven't done so yet too, like me on Facebook. I'll probably be doing some giveaways over there in the near future. And most importantly, if you do get out to the thrift stores, I wish you the best of luck out there treasure hunting. See you guys.